Not only did I have 5 stars this month, I also found some of my new favorite books of all time. Hello, welcome back. My name is Katie. Today I'm going to be going through everything I read in March. It is currently March 29th, so we've got 2 days left. I hate watching these videos, so I'm going to try to make this as exciting as I possibly can. So the goal here is to just give you a super short pitch on each book and let you know my feelings on it without going into depth on everything. I don't want this to be super long. I want to make this as quick as possible, but this is everything that I read in March. So here they are. I also have 5 books that I read as audiobooks that are not in this stack. I just finished Sharks and the Time of Saviors yesterday. This is a family saga. We're getting different perspectives in this. I highly recommend the audiobook. It's a full cast, so you're following all the different siblings and they each have a different narrator, so it's really cool to dive into each of their heads and see their different stories. Basically, the premise of this is a family. They are living in Hawaii and their son falls into the ocean and is saved by sharks. And we have some magic supernatural situation happening with that child, and then the family dynamics that change as a result of this. This was a 3.5 star for me. I really enjoyed it. There were some pieces that were exceptional writing. I really loved especially the sister's perspective. The pacing was a little bit difficult for me. There were some parts of this that dragged. I read this because of Allison Page's Pocket Pages book club, which I highly recommend joining. You should go check out her channel. She's incredible. So I am excited to talk about this in the Discord this week. That's this one. These 3 I read from my video that just went up last week. I will link it up here if you'd like to watch that. It was a video where I read books based on my astrology signs. So, Split Tooth was a 5 star. This is one of my new all-time favorite books. It is very poetic, very lyrical. If you want to hear me gush about this book, go check out that video. Earthlings was a 3 star for me. It made me think a lot of things. I had a lot to say about this, so if you want to hear me talk about the things that I both loved and did not enjoy about this book, go check out that video. The back says, "How far would you go just to be yourself?" It's talking about society and how to escape capitalism and, you know, being a cog in the machine and how you get out of that. Definitely read the content warnings before you read this. And the last one I read for that was The 100-Year-Old Man Who Climbed Out of the Window and Disappeared. This one was a very fun travel situation. The tone of this is Around the World in 80 Days meets The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy meets Chatting with Your Grandpa who's a little problematic. I very much enjoyed it. 4 stars. My Sister the Serial Killer, I had super high hopes for this. I thought this was going to be a 5 star for me. It ended up only being a 3 star. And I don't know if that was a me problem because I enjoyed reading the book. It just didn't hit super hard for me. In this story, reading from the perspective of the older sister, her younger sister keeps killing her boyfriends. And the older sister is having to kind of go around and clean up after her and hide these murders for her, and in the beginning she doesn't know it's a murder, and then eventually she's like, is my sister a serial killer? Yikes. I would definitely recommend picking this up. Even though it didn't work well for me, it's one of those books that I think I could really love on a reread, so I definitely still recommend this. Oh my gosh. This book is so good. I understand the hype now. Fictional Fates has done a video on this. Allison Pages has done a video on this. And in her video, she said she ordered the rest of the trilogy when she finished the first chapter. And yes, it is that good. I read this while I was sick, getting over a cold that lasted forever. It was absolutely perfect. I'm going to recommend this to everyone. So I did order the rest of the series and I'm excited to read that. Hopefully I'll get around to it in April. This book has everything. We have a school setting, which I really enjoyed. There is a magical element to this. This is a really incredible story that is based in reality. The war that happens in this book and some of the battles specifically are very accurate historically, and the author has said that one of the battles in particular. She did not make up barely any of the atrocities that she described. It was all historically accurate and true. And knowing that going into reading this just made it that much more powerful for me. This is one of my favorite books of all time. I will forever read anything that R.F. Kuang writes. And thankfully, she's coming out with something this year, and it's supposed to be dark academia. I think she said it is the plot is a response to The Secret History, and it is a tonal response to Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. So I'm so in for that. We're very excited to read that when it comes out. Go read this book. It's amazing. These two are going to be in next week's video. So I'm going to hide my thoughts from you on these two, but I just wanted to mention that I did read both of these. If you can guess what the video is, the third book I'm reading, which I'm not finished with yet, is The Sentence by Louise Erdrich. So if you can guess it, let me know in the comments. See if you're right. I did not enjoy this one so much, and I absolutely loved this. So if you want to hear my thoughts on these, definitely check out next week's video. If you're watching this after it's up, I will put the video up here. And another 5-star. This book was so good. I did not read The Martian, which is Andy Weir's other book that everyone has read, and I want to read everything that he's ever written. This is about a guy who wakes up on a spaceship and he has some amnesia. He doesn't really know what he's doing there. Pieces are coming back to him, and he is basically trying to save Earth. I absolutely loved the tone of this book. I absolutely loved the science in this book. I absolutely love that we were in space. I loved the other character. I loved everything. I loved everything. It was perfect. Another one of my favorite books. This was an exceptional reading month for me. Not only did I have 5 stars this month, I also found some of my new favorite books of all time. Project Hail Mary, The Poppy War, and Split Tooth are things that I will think about and love forever. So they're going on the favorite shelf. Okay, now I have some books that I read on audiobook that I want to chat to you about. So the first one is On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong. I read this on audiobook because it is narrated by the author himself, and it was an exceptional experience. I definitely want to return to this. I think I'm going to acquire the print version of it. I feel like his writing is so impactful and powerful that I like to read it like I read his poetry. So I'll read like a chapter at a time, like one chapter every day, and sit with the writing. I think that's my favorite way to enjoy his writing. And I didn't do that with this. I just listened to the audiobook straight through. And the way that I ingest audiobooks is I'm always doing something else. So I would be listening to it while I was on a walk, and I wasn't fully present in it. So I really want to return to this. I think it was a 3-star for me. Yeah, it was a 3-star for me. Definitely want to return to it because this was one of my most anticipated reads. I thought this would be a 5-star, and I think it might be my fault that it wasn't. Okay, next we have Crying in H Mart. I absolutely loved this. This book made me think a lot about my family because she's talking about her mother and her mother dying of cancer. So it really just brought up a lot of memories for me about food and my family, because the way that she connects with her family is through food, and the way that she connects with her culture is through food. And I feel so similarly to that. My mom is Portuguese, and basically the only connection that I have to that culture is through Portuguese food and Azorean cooking. So that is so important to me. I actually just ate queijo São Jorge this morning, which is an incredible Portuguese cheese. If you ever see cheese from São Jorge, St. George, the Americanized version of that, eat it. It's so good. Best cheese ever. I'm not kidding. This cheese deserves the hype. It's incredible. So I really did enjoy Crying in H Mart. I don't like rating memoirs, but it was a 4-star for me. Okay, the other two are also for an upcoming video. They're both from different videos too, so you can't even guess. One of them is The Night Swim, and the other one is The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. I read both of those as audiobooks, and I would definitely recommend reading them as audiobooks if you want to read them. So I'm going to be telling you more about those in an upcoming video. I'll put it up here. if it's already up. And the last one is the Anthropocene Reviewed by John Green. I've been wanting to read this since it came out, and it finally was available at my library to read as an audiobook. It's read by John Green himself, and it was just as exceptional as I thought it would be. I think nonfiction is where John Green should be. It was funny and real and thought-provoking. I loved the fact that we were talking about the pandemic, and we were talking about isolation, and we were talking about all of these different things. It was kind of a nice snapshot of the beginning of the pandemic, because some of the essays were written as it was starting, and I think it's always interesting to look back at content that was created around that time, because we thought it was going to be over so soon, and here we are 2 years later. It's March 2022 now. And we think that we're coming out of it now, but none of us really know. That was really, really interesting to read, and I loved the conversations about geese and the Dr. Pepper essay. I loved the concept of going through things that humans have created and rating them. It was just such a cool concept. And I liked the conversation about rating things, and it was just a great experience. I would highly recommend it, and definitely would recommend the audiobook. There are a couple of essays in which he puts like sound clips in. There's one where they're talking about a bird, I believe it is, and he puts the bird call in the audiobook, which I thought really enhanced the experience of reading that essay. Okay, so that is everything that I read in March. Okay, I want to give you some stats for March now. So I read 14 books in March, and I read 4,518 pages. My top mood was reflective, followed by emotional, followed by dark and adventurous, then mysterious, tense, sad, followed by adventurous, and then mysterious, and then the ones that were the smallest amount of books were tense, sad, funny, and informative. I read 50% slow-paced books, 43% medium-paced books, and 7% fast-paced books. I read 1 book over 500 pages, 7 books between 300 and 499, and 6 books that were under 300 pages. I read 2 nonfiction books and 12 fiction books, which is much, much different from what I usually read. Usually I read about 50-50, but I read a lot of fiction audiobooks, and usually I'm reading nonfiction audiobooks, so an interesting change to my reading. My top genres were thrillers and contemporary, followed by memoir literary, followed by magical realism, mystery, horror, historical, and then there were a lot that I read 1 book from, so I'm not going to talk about those. I read 5 books on audiobook, and the rest of them I read in print form. My average star rating this month was 3.89 stars. And here's a little pages graph, so you can see when I read the most. I don't know how accurate that is, because I think it only goes through when I finish a book, but there's a chart. Those are some stats. I hope that was interesting. If you'd like to follow my reading, you can follow me on StoryGraph. I'll put that in the description. Let's be friends. Let's chat about books. Let me know in the comments if you have read any of these books yourself and whether or not you enjoyed them. If you have any recommendations for books like Project Hail Mary, The Poppy War, or Split Tooth, please let me know. I loved them. Otherwise, I will see you on Sunday for another reading vlog where you're going to hear more about Where the Crawdads Sing, The Moviegoer, and The Sentence. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and let me know why in the comments so I can make more content like it. Here's a video that I think you might enjoy as well. And if you want to stick around and hear more of my thoughts on books, please consider subscribing. I post every Sunday. All right, I will see you next time. Bye.